Hi everyone, Susanna Hancock here. I just wanted to jump on and do a quick video about working with brokers. So I've been asked many times to do this through the app, and Jeremy's asked me a couple of times to see if I can do this, because I've kind of embraced the broker world and kind of gone at it with the hope and optimism of a child that's just been put in front of a sweet shop that's selling everything that you can have for free. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Working with brokers is not for everybody, and I know that definitely, Jeremy would say, just do not approach a business that's been listed with a broker. And I get it, I completely get it. I've been working with brokers now and speaking to brokers quite intensively for a year now, and I know how it works. I'm realistic about how it works, but also I'm also optimistic in the sense that I think you can find good brokers. They're few and far between, I'm going to be honest about it, but they are out there, and they tend to be the smaller independents. They understand, they have a much better understanding that actually they have to operate in the interests of their clients and not in the interests of their commission payments. Unfortunately, that's what largely guides most brokers, is that their model is not constructed to sell businesses. And actually, that was something that another broker told me. He said, he was quite open. The brokerage industry as a whole has a terrible reputation as being literally a churn factory. Onboard, plonk them on a platform site, that's your marketing, charge a ridiculous upfront fee. I think the average is about £8,000, and I've heard fees up to 50k. Commissions paid at the end, and some charge retainers. All of them, I think, well, somewhere, yeah, all of them, most of them have a tie-in clause for their clients, so which means that, for a period, I think it's KBS, or maybe Turner Butler, one of those has a tie-in for 12 months. So in other words, should that business then go and find an acquirer that may or may not have come from them, they are contractually obliged to pay that percentage fee. So wrong on every level, really, very unethical, and unfortunately it's an industry that's not regulated, so they can do what they want, really. So why should you not work with a broker? Jeremy will tell you anyway, when you go on your training, if you've been on your training and you see him talking about it, he's right. Starts with ridiculous valuations. Most brokers will overvalue a business, and it's not even worth trying to find out really, how they've come up with these numbers, because clearly it's not from the balance sheets. So so they overvalue, they adjust the EBITDA again ridiculously, so you're not seeing the realistic figures coming through. With this kind of overvaluation, this ridiculous overvaluation, comes the dream. So a business owner comes to the point where they're ready to exit. They've never sold a business before. They have no idea what they're doing. So the very first thing that they do is to hit Google. How do I sell my business? And what happens is, boing, up comes a whole list of brokers. And you can't blame them. They've never done it before, like I said. So they're going. So straight away, they're walking straight into this trap. And they're not asking anybody else usually. They've not asked, they've not looked around. They're not, they're not, I suppose they're not comparing as we would typically compare as consumers for any other product. They're going in, they've got the schmooze kicks in. We're going to sell your business. You're going to get £1 million for it, £5 million. You're going to live the dream. And this is the challenge. It's a mindset. It becomes an ingrained mindset. You are going to be walking away from this deal with £5 million in your pockets, and probably they're going to give it all up front. How amazing will that be? So they're feeding them mistruths, really. They're literally painting this glorious picture. And again, you can't blame a vendor for going away, literally clicking his heels on the way out, thinking he's ready now. He's going to put a deposit down. The yacht's there, the villa, you know, in Portugal or Mallorca or wherever it is in the Caribbean. It's all there. They've spent the money, it's gone. And then you get the gatekeepers. So they've built up this, obviously they've now built up a scenario. They've got, you know, these are the friends, these fabulous friends are going to give them this brilliant valuation. And they've told all their friends now, that's it, we're millionaires. And it's going to happen really quickly. You know, the next 3 to 6 months, we're out of here. Amazing. Life starts. Unfortunately, what happens is brokers become gatekeepers, protecting their, obviously their commission payments, a bit like terrible estate agents, you know, do, because the model is geared for onboarding. Make the money at the front, take the money at the back, and get some retainers in the middle. They're not bothered. They just want their cat. They want their income, and they're prepared to wait for it because the churn is so fast. So that's the other problem. You're having to get past the gatekeeper. So that agent that is representing that business, who's built them up, and you know, and they're very nice to you. They're really, really nice to you. But what they say to you is not what they say to them. So again, it's about building in realism. So we're now working with the gatekeepers, the ridiculous valuations, the adjusted EBITDAs, you know, and a vendor who is now in a delusionary state, has no idea what's down the road for them. So the question, you know, so all of those things saying, don't touch a broker because it's going to be a pain in the arse for you. It's take you forever, you'll be frustrated, and you will literally want to run at them. And I've had all of that. I've felt all of those things more than once. However, there's reasons why you should consider using a broker. And for the purpose of balance, I think it'd be useful for me to give those to you. So why should you use a broker? Well, for me, a broker represents a really valid contribution to my sourcing process. So direct letters, LinkedIn, I've started phone calling actually, direct phone calls, etc., etc., etc. So deal flow, as part of your deal flow process, don't discount them. You know, it is valid. There are many, and I mean millions of businesses sitting in there waiting for people to come, investors like us, to come and buy them. Clearly we've got some work to do, you know, to try and get past that obviously those issues earlier, but they're there and it's valid. If you can find a great broker, and they do exist, they are out there, they tend to be the smaller ones, they're not KVS, they're not Turner Butler, they're not Intelligent, you know, blah, 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 I could go on and on. But they're smaller, they may be regional, you know, they tend not to have the bigger, you know, upfront onboarding fees, they're more realistic, and actually they're very much aligned to the vendor's aspirations, and they're very much, you know, desirable of selling the business, and they do real marketing. In other words, they don't just plonk them on a platform site like Biz Buy Sell, Right Biz, BizDac. They've all got a biz in there somewhere. So they are, you know, they have a vested interest in it. They care about their clients, and I've seen that, and I've worked with brokers, and I'm working with them now actually to see, you know, to see that we do what we want to do, which is to help people exit their businesses and do so ethically and quickly. So there's a huge amount out there, and there's lots of businesses that have been sitting there for 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer. So strategically, you know, there's a school of thought that says to me, well, look, call for 5-10 minutes, build a bit of rapport, see what's there. Is it worth it? Of course it's worth it. It is for me. It is for me. It's how I first found my first deal. And all right, you know, we did the deal, and just before we're going to, you know, take it over the line, they swooped on in and tried to get a fee out of me, out of us, should I say, which we promptly ignored and just carried on. But I got my first deal through a broker, and I've got another 2 that, you know, are credible. And yes, it's taking longer because we have to get past this expectation and past the dream. But ultimately, it's down to the vendor to agree to a deal or not. They can be influenced by the broker, or they don't have to be, and they can make their own decisions. So it's credible, and it doesn't should, but I think it's worth using it as part of your deal flow. So the other reason is that it's free lead generation for you. You know, we're not paying for this. You know, what I tend to do is to send them a criteria, you know, a deal source criteria for me, what I'm looking for specifically in my deals. Again, you know, I'm guessing you all have done that for yourselves already. So that's the size of the business, you know, turnover, EBITDA, management, sector, specialisms, you know, growth, all those things that are important to you when you're deciding what's right for you and for the targets that you're looking at. They can go away then and look at their own portfolios. They tend to have their own portfolios. Some are sector specific, lots of them aren't. They tend to just be, you know, if you think about it again as the sausage factory, you know, bringing all these new businesses in they come, then they spread out to all of their network of swanky salespeople who are supposed to go market them and find buyers for them. So it's free lead gen, you know, and if you can see the benefit of that, and again, it's not using your time because they're getting on and doing it, then why not? So why not? You've got nothing to lose really other than your patience, and you'll do that more than once. So how do you manage the process? That's the question I get asked the most. How do you manage the process? What do you say to brokers? So let's start with, what do you say to brokers? I'm very, very clear up front, especially when I'm talking to new brokers that I haven't worked before, and to say, you know, I am really keen to work with them collaboratively. I'm really keen to see how we can form a really strong, mutually beneficial partnership where, you know, they have the benefit of deal flow, I have the benefit of turning that deal flow into profit for them. So I can be responsible for the targets and the money that comes to them directly. So one, it's hitting their targets, two, they get the commissions, we're both happy, and that I can do it relatively quickly. You know, my process where I keep everything in-house means that, you know, we're not waiting 3-4 months for a deal to go across the line. You know, we can do this in a week if we needed to, and if everything was above board and where it should be. Tends to get their ears, you know, pricked up when you say that. So I'm very clear that also that here's what I will not do. I will not entertain businesses where the owner's sitting on the fence. I'm in no rush. If I hear that, I'm in no rush. Then neither am I, and I've gone. Those words to me say, I'm not motivated. I'm in no rush. So if you hear that, back off and leave it. I will not shoulder all of the risk on a deal, especially now, more than ever, post-COVID. That's not going to happen. So any deal will involve a level of deferred consideration, or otherwise known as seller financing. And the owner needs to be aware of that and be okay with it. Equally, as a brokerage, they need to be okay with it. Because there are quite a few that will say, absolutely no way will my client will not accept seller financing or deferred consideration. Okay, bye, I'm off. Don't waste any time. Don't waste any time. There's also the ones that say, we need to see your proof of funds. Perfect. You can see my proof of funds as soon as we've signed our heads of terms and we've got a letter of intent. No problem. We can do all of that. But for now, let's get the conversation started. So again, be confident and direct. We're investors. You know, we're here to do great things with brilliant businesses. We're not here to faff about. We haven't got time for that. So we will look at how we secure a closing. We will work creatively with the vendors to do that. We'll always keep it, you know, very much, you know, in our, it's in our top of our my priority certainly is to protect any deferred consideration or any kind of support that buyer provides in transitioning over, that we respect that I'm ethical. I will never asset strip. I will never give promises that I can't keep. I will never make statements that aren't true. And I will always put the vendor at the heart of every single communication and decision that I make. So for me, it's about building trust, and it's about building mutual respect and rapport. with that particular agent that I'm talking to. So, but I'm not going to do it. And if they say, look, our clients just want it all up front, then we're not doing that. I'm off. And that's fine. You're done. So what to say is just be yourself, be credible, talk about your previous acquisition history if you've got any. If you haven't yet got any acquisition behind you, then that's fine too. You know, you can talk about your history, your corporate history, what you've done, what you're going to be doing. You could say you're part of a consortium of investors that are investing around the country, investing hundreds of millions of pounds, and that you have a team. Structure that conversation in a way that's authentic to you and that's real for you, because we're all working differently. So that's what you would say to a broker. Just be honest. Don't waste their time. Don't waste our time. And off you go. The single most important thing with working with brokers in this whole process is the single most important thing that secures our deals, which is rapport. For me, it's 98% of the deal. I know the signs now. I know the body language. I know the verbal language that tells me you've sold this business to me already. I know you have. We've just got to get past some of these challenges that the brokers have set in place. But I know. So with brokers, it's the same thing. Take time, get to know them as individuals. Before you kind of really delve into this business that you're interested in, just say, no, Matthew, great to speak to you. Where are you based? Okay, how long have you been doing this for? Well, you must be seeing quite a lot of change going on. Be interesting, to see what's happening post-COVID. Have you had, how active has the market been? What changes are you observing? Blah, blah, blah. Build the rapport, build the rapport, build the rapport. And then what you want to be able to do, obviously, is say your piece. Again, if they know you already, then that's a given. But if they don't, you can then go into, look, this is what I'm looking for, Matthew. Blah, 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 blah. This is how we're going to do it. Is it ridiculous that we couldn't do this together? Is it a ridiculous idea that we could take something over the line in 7 days? And let them bring them into your journey now. Bring them into your optimism, if you like, and bring them into your confidence. Also bring them into your vision that you're going to give them their targets attainment, and also their bonuses and their commissions. So build a rapport with that person. Get into a really good relationship where everything's about a win-win. This is all about win-win. Look, Matthew, I really want some brilliant businesses. I've got my team ready, I've got my process ready. I can take it over the line in 7 days. You can have your money in 7 days. What we need to be able to do is come together and look at this client of yours, and look, the valuation's a bit out. We'll help them get there. There's no doubt. If it's not crazy, and it's like 20 times valuations too. But you need to help me. You need to help me to get this over the line. So if we can do this together, you get your money, I get my money. They can go and retire off to the Maldives. That has to be a good thing, right? So hopefully Matthew goes, yeah, actually, Susanna, that's absolutely right. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Use the words creative, use the words ethical. Just build a relationship. Build a relationship. They know what you're about now. They know the parameters. And equally, something I found out today, having spoken to a new contact in the brokerage, is that this guy said to me, it's really frustrating. I'm going to have to be honest with you, it's so frustrating, Susanna, because what happens is, he didn't use a sausage machine analogy, obviously, but we've got businesses that they're getting onboarded by somebody that isn't me. I have no idea how that valuation was prepared or created. I have no idea. All that happens is it lands on my desk and I have to go and sell it. And it's really frustrating because even I can see that it's not worth that. So, I understand where you're coming from, Susanna. I do understand. So we've got it. And I think if you not taken time to have those conversations, you wouldn't understand what they're working with as well. Again, you can always use that as your collateral, as your leverage then, as you move through the processes, to keep bringing them back. I know it's frustrating, Matthew, and you know what, we're getting frustrated together, but we're going to get this over the line. It's going to be all good, nod. So manage the process, and managing the process is about managing the expectation of the broker, and certainly managing their appreciation of how you work. Once you've got past that and you've got into the conversation with your clients, how are you managing that process? What do you need to say with that part of the process, which actually critically is the most important? So obviously, same thing here. For meeting one, meeting two, maybe, I don't talk about numbers. You know, I might just get them to remind me what their turnover and EBIT was, but it's so incidental that it's just there. It's a passing, you know, just remind me. Sorry, just remind me, because I haven't written down what that is. Could you just tell me? And it becomes incidental and we move on. But exactly the same process that you would approach in building rapport now kicks in. So you build the rapport, bring them in, and you'll start to know, and if you've done your acquisitions, you'll know when you've got them, you've got their trust, you've got their admiration, you've got their respect. Then you're going to have to say, look, you know, obviously brokers, that they're there to sell their business for you. It's not always the case that they have you in, you know, it's their best interests at heart. And what I see is that this may be, you know, really badly overvalued. It's not to say that I don't think your business is brilliant, because it really, really is. But we have to be realistic, you know, go back to what's important to them, and, you know, be able to reiterate those things and say to them, look, if we're going to do this deal, then what we really need to do is make sure that obviously you're going to have your brokers saying, you know what, hold out for that extra £500,000, hold out for that £1 million. You'll sell it. The reality is, and I don't need to say this to you, but the reality is that only 2 out of 10 businesses will never sell. And I'd hate for you to be one of those 8. So it's 2 out of 10 that do sell. I'd hate for you to be one of the 8 that is waiting for this elusive cash buyer with all this money up front that's going to allow you to run away with a very heavy tax bill, to be honest, into the sunset, and it's done, and it's going to be happen quickly. I'm going to help you exit your business. I'm going to help you do that in a way that is real and ethical, but you have to help me. And also you have to be aware that, you know, that brokers may not give you the advice that you need to hear. So I just want to leave that with you. But let's see what we can do. So imagine if, you know, we get to this agreement, we've reached this deal, we could have you out of business. You know, we could do the deal in 7 days and you'd be out of business in 6 to 12 months. Gosh. And that's the way to do it, really. And I don't see it as a slagging off exercise, far from it, because I think that would be the wrong thing to do. But it's education. I want to educate you. I just want you to be mindful of, this is how brokers work. This is their model. I'm guessing they've charged you this much up front. I'm assuming you know, there might be a retainer there. Equally, you know, you're on 2, 3, 4%. They'll usually tell you what that is. And then again, you'll have read the terms and conditions that you'll be tied in for 12 months. And, you know, you can talk about, you know, the stories that you've read, you know, or any experience that you've had where you've had, you know, companies, which I've seen, you know, I've seen businesses, I've met them, I've put offers in for them. And, you know, 1.5 years later, they're still there. They're still up on these websites not being sold. Wouldn't that be tragic? Wouldn't it be tragic that you couldn't get to see grandchildren or spend all those, you know, whatever their hotspots are? So I think, again, in terms of the process when it affects the client, be seen to be their best friend. You're going to support them, you know, and in its most genuine, authentic way, you are there to really support them to get what they want, and that you're their trusted partner in doing that. So slagging off the broker is really not the best idea. So that's it, really. I think, just to recap, I think it is, you know, I continue to talk to brokers as part of my deal flow, probably not as much as I used to, but I still do it. You know, and it comes through as my pipeline. You know, I've got deals on the table at the moment that have come through brokers, and the likelihood of them coming off is probably similar to the likelihood of any other one that I've come off, you know, in the past. Yes, of course, if you're going direct and they've not been clearly influenced and brainwashed by a broker, you have a far better chance of conversion. But there's there's a huge potential out there. You know, the one thing we must all bear in mind is that most, not I'd say 99% of vendors have never sold a business before. They have no idea what they're doing. They've no idea. And of course, first thing they've done is gone, Googled it, like we said earlier, just straight into the trap. So it can be credible. People buy businesses from brokers all of the time. If you're really smart and you're great at negotiation, which I'm sure you all are, then, you know, make it your own. It's make it your own. Ultimately, it's the vendor has the final decision. The vendor chooses. The vendor makes the decision. If the vendor says, no, I'm going with this deal, I want to go with that deal, and I'm going with this deal structure, then they have to do that. So that's it. If there's any questions that you've got, you can always get in touch with me via the app, and I'll be really, really happy to answer any questions that you've got. I have scheduled a video been asked to do on building rapport, something that I absolutely love doing. It's part of kind of, we all have our strengths within what we're doing, and a rapport building for me is it. So I'll do something, a short video on that, but I hope it's been useful, and like I said, get in touch if there's anything else I can help.